Welcome, brothers and sisters. As Jesus followers, we're happy to be related in the faith. This month's program is full of faithful examples and ways you and I can act in faith to make things happen. We'll visit with the Lackmuth sisters at the Canada branch. How did their faith help them adjust to leaving their home in Canada to serve in a missionary assignment in India? For decades, the apartheid laws in South Africa separated our brothers from one another. How were their neutrality, brotherly love, and faith in Jehovah put to the test? And our music video depicts how a person's faith grows from when they first study the Bible to when they face trials as a dedicated witness of Jehovah. This is the April 2017 edition of JW Broadcasting. Has fear of failure ever held you back from doing something good, even something for Jehovah? Some have hesitated to dedicate themselves to God and get baptized for fear of breaking God's laws. In other cases, we might not reach out for a form of service because we don't feel we can do a good job. In this dramatization, a Bible student faces his fear of failure. It's based on lessons found in chapter 1 of the book, Keep Yourselves in God's Love. Look for what helps him overcome his fear and move ahead in faith.
When's your turn, Dad?
Our family was contacted by Jehovah's Witnesses a few years ago. Rachel started studying first. Soon, we all joined in. For the first time, we were all learning what the Bible really teaches. It wasn't long before we were sharing the truth with others. Well, most of us were. I knew it was the truth, but I didn't know if I could live up to everything Jehovah asks.
Get away!
What if I let everyone down? What if I let Jehovah down? In the car, okay?
Can you just give me 1 second?
Yeah, no
All
problem.
right,
No
yeah.
problem.
A kind elder named Ben noticed I was struggling. He took the initiative to help. He asked, "What drew you to Jehovah in the first place?" I guess it was learning that Jehovah isn't harsh and demanding, but he's a loving father. Ben agreed and said, when we do our best to serve Jehovah, he does the rest. He explained that Jehovah knows our limitations and doesn't expect perfection, and he's always there to help because he wants us to succeed. Then he read Isaiah 41:10. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be anxious, for I am your God. I will fortify you. Yes, I will help you. I will really hold on to you with my right hand of righteousness. I don't need to be perfect to serve Jehovah. I just need to love him and trust him, and he'll do the rest.
Our brother learned what the love of God means. As 1 John 5:3 tells us, it means that we observe his commandments, and yet his commandments are not burdensome. Jehovah is a loving Father who wants us to succeed. As our brother concluded, we need to trust Jehovah, knowing He'll do the rest. That lesson provides an excellent introduction to our discussion for this month. The theme is Faith in Jehovah Makes It Happen. During His earthly ministry, Jesus miraculously healed many sick or disabled persons. At times, He would say to such ones the expression we find at Matthew 9:29, "According to your faith, let it happen to you." The principle of what Jesus stated applies in every aspect of our Christian life and ministry. But today, we will discuss how this principle, that faith in Jehovah makes things happen, can work for us in three areas. We will see, number one, how our faith has made positive things happen in our personal life. Two, how we can accomplish things in God's service that would not be possible without faith in Jehovah God. And three, how faith moves us to step out of our comfort zone to do more in Jehovah's service. The principle, faith in Jehovah makes things happen, is well illustrated in one of the miracles Jesus performed. Please open your Bible to Mark chapter 5, and let's read verses 25 through 29. Now there was a woman who had had a flow of blood for 12 years. She had suffered much at the hands of many physicians and had spent all her resources, and she was no better, but rather had become worse. When she heard the reports about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his outer garment. For she kept saying, "If I touch just his outer garments, I will get well." And immediately her flow of blood dried up, and she sensed in her body that she had been healed of the grievous sickness. In the following verses, Jesus asks who had touched him. The woman then reveals before the crowd what she had done and how she had been cured. Now, notice Jesus' response in verse 34. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed from your grievous sickness." What comforting words Jesus spoke to this trembling woman. Your faith has made you well. What did Jesus mean? Let's examine the account more closely. It says that the woman heard reports about Jesus. Many others heard the same reports, but not all put faith in Jesus. And think of the circumstances that could have prevented her from even coming to Jesus. She had been disappointed many times over the past 12 years. She might well have thought, what's the use? I'm tired and weak and poor. I am staying home. Or, I would like for Jesus to see me, but there is such a crowd. How will I ever get through to him? And after all, I'm in an unclean state. And if the people discover this, perhaps they will punish me. No, she did not allow these negative thoughts or doubts to fill her mind. She left her home. She found Jesus despite the large crowd. And what was she saying? Did she say, if I touch just his outer garments, maybe I will get well? No, she said, I will get well. Now, it was not the case that her faith healed her. No, but her faith moved her to come to Jesus, and she was healed by the power from Jehovah that flowed through his Son. Faith to approach Jesus made it happen for her. If you are a dedicated baptized Christian, don't you agree that your faith has already made positive things happen in your personal life? No, you were not miraculously healed of your physical sicknesses. We look forward to physical healing of our ills during the 1,000-year reign of Christ. But today, Jesus Christ directs a program of spiritual healing. When we were a part of this godless world, many of us were sick spiritually, morally, and emotionally. No one could cure us. Perhaps we desperately tried material things or pleasures to fill our spiritual need, but our condition only got worse. We were helpless and hopeless. But then we heard reports, the good news of God's kingdom under Christ. We studied the Bible. Our faith moved us to make positive changes in our life and to associate with the Christian congregation. Today, we enjoy good spiritual health and happiness. Our faith has made it happen. Faith has also made it possible to accomplish things in God's service that perhaps we never thought we could do. Please open your Bibles to Hebrews chapter 11. In this portion of Paul's letter to the Hebrews, he focuses on faith. It begins with a definition of faith, but then starting in verse 4, Paul acts as a sort of tour guide, walking us through the corridor of thousands of years of Bible history. He stops along the way to point out the extraordinary things that men and women of the past did by means of faith in Jehovah God. Just glance down the columns in this chapter and notice how Paul introduces each paragraph with the words, by faith. This expression, by faith, appears 18 times in this one chapter. Now, when we look at the names Paul lists in this chapter, we may think, well, these were spiritual giants. But in reality, they were ordinary humans with weaknesses like all of us have today. The thing they all had in common was faith. And faith in Jehovah made it possible for them to do amazing things. Let's look at some of them and compare what they did with what many of you are doing today by faith. Let's read verse 5. By faith, Enoch was transferred so as not to see death, and he was nowhere to be found because God had transferred him. For before he was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well. The book of Jude, verses 14 and 15, informs us that Enoch boldly proclaimed that Jehovah was going to destroy that ungodly world. It appears that wicked, violent men were going to take Enoch's life because of his bold witness. So God chose to take him, that is, gently cutting short his life, sparing him the pangs of a violent death. In modern times, like Enoch, many brothers and sisters have boldly declared God's judgments even when faced with death. One brother, after receiving a death sentence at Nazi hands during World War II, wrote these words shortly before his execution. I have such peace, such tranquility that you can't possibly imagine. Faith made such boldness and calmness possible. In many ways, you very likely have shown the same faith as Enoch. By faith, you stand up to an ungodly world by not adopting its corrupt ways. By faith, you boldly declare God's word from house to house and in public places. Before you became a baptized witness, you may have thought you would never do this preaching work, but you are doing it, sometimes even in the face of verbal abuse and opposition. Faith has made it happen. Let's read verse 7. By faith, Noah, after receiving divine warning of things not yet seen, showed godly fear and constructed an ark for the saving of his household. And through this faith, he condemned the world, and he became an heir of the righteousness that results from faith. Nothing in the Bible indicates that Jehovah chose Noah to construct an ark because he was an experienced builder. Certainly, he never had built such a gigantic vessel as what Jehovah had asked him to construct. Noah likely pondered many questions. How will I get all the building materials? Do I have the right tools to do the job? How will I gather all the animals? What food will they need and how much? When exactly will the deluge begin? How long will it last? Where will the ark land after the flood subsides? Nothing in the record indicates that Jehovah gave Noah all the details in advance. What Noah did have was faith. Faith moved him to begin building. His faith saved him and his family. Faith in Jehovah made it happen. Like Noah, during this time of the end, Jehovah's people have taken on challenging theocratic building projects. Certainly, constructing the New World headquarters at Warwick, New York, was one of these projects that required much faith. A committee of brothers was assigned to complete this vast project in less than 4 years. To do so, they knew they had to begin by July 2013. They moved ahead in faith. Though the town had not yet approved the site permits, they began inviting workers to the site with that date in mind. Time was passing quickly. The invited volunteers were buying plane tickets. Bethel was arranging rooming and other details. Yet the committee still did not have site permits. Would they cancel these invitations? They state, "We spent a lot of time praying about it. We decided we needed to act in faith, and we were just convinced Jehovah was going to make it happen." As the deadline approached, the brothers had done everything possible to obtain the permits. The town planning board was holding a public hearing. And to the brothers' great surprise, within 15 minutes of the start of the meeting, the town board voted to approve the project. These overseers commented, "When the approval came through, we knew it was only by Jehovah's Spirit that happened." True, but it was also the brothers' faith to act that made it happen. Those experiences are found in the video, World Headquarters, History is Being Written. You can find it in the Our Activities section under the Construction category. Now let's read Hebrews 11:8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, obeyed by going out to a place he was to receive as an inheritance. He went out, although not knowing where he was going. What faith it took for Abraham and his submissive wife Sarah to leave the prosperous city of Ur and go wherever Jehovah would lead them. It meant leaving the security of a pleasant home and moving to some strange and potentially hostile land some 1,000 miles or 1,609 kilometers away. Do we see such faith today? Absolutely. Since 2014, thousands of brothers and sisters have attended the School for Kingdom Evangelizers, agreeing to be assigned to wherever there is a need by the organization. Faith has made it happen. When a call goes out for skilled volunteers to help build or expand branch facilities, faith moves brothers and sisters to simplify their lives and to leave their comfort zone in order to assist. For example, in 2009, the congregations in the United States were informed that an expansion project at Wallkill, New York, was being planned. One couple moved out of their newly built 2,200 square foot or 200 square meter dream home and into a 270 square foot or 25 square meter apartment so that they could make themselves available. What happened? They explain, 1 month after we moved into our small apartment, we received an invitation to serve as temporary volunteers at Wallkill. It was clear to us that by simplifying our life, we had given Jehovah something to bless. Faith made it happen for them. So, what have we learned today? Faith in Jehovah God is a powerful, motivating force that impels us to act in harmony with His will. Jehovah rewards such faith. Remember, the very meaning of the name of our God, Jehovah, is He causes to become. Truly, He is a God who makes things happen. Brothers and sisters, let us continue to act in faith. Jehovah will continue to make wonderful things happen in our personal life. We will accomplish things we never could do through our own personal efforts. We will be able to do more in Jehovah's service. May it happen to you according to your faith. We met two examples of faith at the Canada branch. Tilly and Leona Lackmuth showed faith like Abraham's when they stepped out of their comfort zone to preach in a faraway land. But that wasn't the only big adjustment they would make in their long theocratic history. In their interview, look for the challenge that came after nearly 50 years in their assignment.
We were brought up in a small town in Saskatchewan. It was friendly. I don't think they moved to other places. They stayed right there. One time our father said, "Why do you have to go so far as India? Why can't you preach in Canada?" Dad was very strict.
Very strict. When we were out playing and he came out and called us, we had to come immediately.
They were strict.
Don't question. Just do what you're told.
Yeah, do what you're told. Yeah, that's right. Strict. My father was the one that was interested, but he never came in the truth.
He enjoyed having witnesses come to our home, but he never ever thought of himself as being one of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Coming in the truth, I think, changed our life, and we had a different purpose. So that's when we decided, well, I guess we should pioneer now too. And we only pioneered 2 years, and we were called to Gilead. So then we graduated in 1953. In your application in Gilead, one question is, are you willing to go any place in the world? Brother Nora always would say, a one-way ticket. So that was on your mind.
We were happy to go, and if we didn't get back, then it was okay.
And then the 13 of us, for 1 month, we all went together back to India on a ship.
Well, we were a bit nervous because we didn't know just what kind of people we would be meeting or what kind of atmosphere we'd be experiencing.
That's why it was a shock when we landed in Bombay, because all we could see was people everywhere, and noise.
And then they gave us such hot food, we were burning all the way down.
And then when we arrived there, the missionary home had no furniture. And we had to sleep on the floor for quite a few months before the furniture was made. We boiled our water, we filtered our water. When we went to the market, we'd bring all our vegetables and fruit home, and we washed them with a solution. And we were very careful in that respect.
It was all a shock to us in many things.
Yes. We made up our mind, I guess, that it's not going to be the same as Canada, we know. We didn't worry about things we had to put up with, because we had the joy in the ministry. The society wanted us to get the joy booklet out, and we had to just stand on the street with this carton of literature and just keep calling out to the people, and everybody would take it.
And they were so appreciative.
Yeah, they
really
were.
appreciative.
Yeah. In those days, we had to put in 150 hours. And in South India, after 4, women were not out, so we had to get all our time in early in the morning and work right through till 4 o'clock.
Sure did.
We were using the Malayalam language, and the children repeated what we said.
They'd run ahead and tell people what we were talking about.
And they'd all yell, "Madama, Madama."
White woman, white woman.
Yeah, and we had many studies then. We enjoyed the ministry, and we enjoyed the hospitality.
Be with the brothers and go to their
Yeah.
homes and eat their food and do things the way they do things.
So we had to make India our home. We lived in India about 50 years. And then the news came that we had to leave. So that's why the governing body said, well, you go to Canada branch then. Well, it was like culture shock too,
Yes.
after being so many years in India. A lot of things we had to sort of adjust here now. I'm working down in the laundry, folding.
Same. Folding and folding till we fold in.
Well, we always tell the younger ones to be in the full-time service, serving Jehovah. That this we think is a wonderful life to choose.
It's good for the young people to learn when they're young like that.
And no doubt they'll make progress in the truth too.
Glad we started pioneering and moved about.
Yeah, we lack nothing really, nothing to complain about.
It wasn't easy, but Tilly and Leona adapted to a culture in India that was very different from what they knew. It was interesting, however, that they felt a similar culture shock when returning home to Canada. But through all of it, Jehovah rewarded their faith. After more than 67 years of full-time service, they can say with confidence that they lacked nothing. Young ones, why not imitate the faith of ones like Tilly and Leona and set a goal for a form of service that's new to you? And older ones, if an assignment you treasured for many years comes to an end, know that Jehovah remembers the love you showed for His name and wants you to find joy in your new assignment. No matter our circumstances, Jehovah wants us all to do what was recently discussed at a Bethel morning worship. Seek first the kingdom.
Our text for discussion today, here in Matthew 6, verse 33, contains two parts. The first part is what we have to do. It says, "Keep on then seeking first the kingdom and His righteousness." The second part is what Jehovah will do, and all these other things will be added to you. We think carefully about these words. Jesus actually was educating His disciples to make a dramatic change in their lifestyle. What do we mean by that? Well, look at verse 31. He says, "So never be anxious and say, 'What are we to eat?' or 'What are we to drink?' or 'What are we to wear?'" Did Jesus say never? Yes. But those are the things we normally do. We are anxious about our existence. And Jesus recognizes that most people are that way. He says in verse 32, "For all these are the things the nations are eagerly pursuing." But then he says, "Your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things." Here in this chapter, Jesus outlines a number of very important principles that actually change the way we look at life and the way we see our existence in relationship to Jehovah God. He puts service to Jehovah in the first place, regardless of our circumstances. Let us have a look at two of these principles. The one is here in Matthew 6, verse 24. He says, "No one can slave for two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will stick to the one and despise the other. You cannot slave for God and for riches. It is just not possible." Some have tried, but they failed. Satan approached Jesus and said to him, "I will give you riches. I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world and their glory." Of course, Jesus refused. Why? Because he knew there was a price attached to it. What is the price? Worship. Divided worship, which is impossible. He knew it is impossible to worship both Jehovah and riches. In verse 21, Jesus says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The second principle is in verse 25. "On this account, I say to you, Stop being anxious about your lives as to what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your bodies as to what you will wear. And here is the principle. Does not life mean more than food and the body more than clothing? You can have a storehouse full of food. If you don't have life, you cannot eat it. You can have a warehouse full of clothes, but if there's no body, you cannot wear it. Jesus illustrated this principle beautifully in Luke. Turn to Luke chapter 12 and from verse 16. With that he told them an illustration, saying, "The land of a rich man produced well. So he began reasoning within himself, 'What should I do now that I have nowhere to gather my crops?' Then he said, 'I'll do this. I'll tear down my storehouses and build bigger ones, and there I will gather all my grain and all my goods. And I will say to myself, you have many good things stored up for many years. Take it easy. Eat, drink, enjoy yourself.' But God said to him, 'Unreasonable one, this night they are demanding your life from you. Who then is to have the things you stored up? So it goes with a man who stores up treasure for himself, but is not rich toward God.'" Jesus didn't say this man was dishonest or that he never thought about God. The mistake the man made was his priorities were wrong. He focused primarily on amassing wealth. He did not do what it says in verse 21. He did not store up treasure for himself. He stored up treasure for himself, but did not store up treasure with God in heaven. He was not rich toward God. And that is the key element, isn't it? Our service to Jehovah God, our life for Jehovah. That is the key element. And as Jesus says in verse 15, the second part of verse 15, because even when a person has an abundance, his life does not result from the things he possesses. So these are the two very important principles we've covered. First of all, make our service to God the priority and not amassing wealth. And the second one, keep on then seeking first the kingdom and God's righteousness. And all these other things will be added to you. We do not know precisely when the end will come, but we want to keep on seeking first the kingdom. Rather than putting our trust in the securities of this world, we want to put our trust in our Heavenly Father. Jehovah gives everything. He gives more than what we need. In Ecclesiastes 5, verse 19, it summarizes this whole principle. It establishes the truth, the reality of the matter. It says, Ecclesiastes 5, verse 19, "Also, when the true God gives a man riches and material possessions, along with the ability to enjoy them, he should take his reward and rejoice in his hard work. This is the gift of God."
Did you note two things that Brother Murray said could prevent us from seeking the kingdom first in our lives? One was being divided, trying to serve Jehovah while seeking riches or other things in the world. The second was anxiety over what we need to survive. We can avoid both of these distractions by building up our faith that Jehovah cares for us. We're assured that He will provide for our needs in this system, and in the new world, we know He'll satisfy any wholesome desires that we choose to sacrifice for now. It may help to recall what Jehovah has already done for us. Can you remember your faith growing when you first studied the Bible, when you began your ministry, sharing the kingdom good news, when you dedicated your life to God, or when He helped you through a serious trial? If so, you can say with conviction that faith makes things happen. And you can appreciate the experiences depicted in this encouraging music video.
A heart full of questions, a life so unsure. I heard what you told me, I wanted more. What you told me, I wanted more. Unanswered questions were answered that day. The worry I was feeling melted away. All my worries faded away. It's a long road we're going down, but faith can make things happen. When there's no way through and no way round, faith can make things happen. Make things happen. I love what I'm learning and share what I know. I'm ready and waiting, so here I go. Yes, I'm ready to share what I know. My faith is like a fire that burns within my heart. I've gotta keep it burning and do my part. Keep it burning deep in my heart. It's a long road we're going down, but this I've not forgotten. When there's no way through and no way round, faith can make things happen. Make things happen. Seeing sad days, bad days, bring stormy weather, praying over and over, staying close to Jehovah. He said, if you put your trust in me, I'll give you strength, and then you'll see the trials that came to me. We face them together. It's a long road we're going down, but this I've not forgotten. When there's no way through and no way round, faith can make things happen. Now I'm so sure, I have no doubt, faith can make things happen. When there's no way through and no way round, faith can make things happen. Make things happen.
Nothing we experience is too difficult for Jehovah. That may be easy to remember when things are going well, but when anxiety or trials come, can we remember to trust Jehovah? What was one thing our sister did to build her faith? She prayed. Even Jesus' apostles begged him, give us more faith. We can ask Jehovah for more faith and then act with the courage and strength that he provides. Jehovah gives us his Holy Spirit, both individually and as a group. To see evidence of that, We need only go to a part of the world where Jehovah's people were put under intense pressure. In South Africa, for example, the government's policy of racial segregation, called apartheid, lasted for 46 years until 1994. Our brothers were pressured to take sides in armed conflict. Their freedom to worship together was limited, and the prevailing attitudes towards people of different races threatened their unity. In this report, we learn how our South African brothers remained united and neutral in support of God's kingdom.
One afternoon when we came to the station, there were men who were directing things, and we were directed to a coach, whites only. That was the first time that we saw apartheid being law enforced.
You could not leave the black areas where your home was without getting a permit. We were even given a permit that stipulated which area we were allowed to do the preaching work in.
People would always ask us, "What are you doing to fight apartheid?" We had to boldly tell them, God's kingdom is the only solution. God will help the whole earth to live in peace one day, so we cannot take sides on political issues now.
Here at home in Soweto, we heard the sound of children running in the streets. We heard the sound of gunshots. Tear gas was everywhere. When my husband came home that day, we sat with the children and took out the book, Your Youth Getting the Best Out of It, and we studied the topic, How Do You View Your Parents? This was appropriate because children had the spirit of rebelling against their own parents. They went as far as burning people. They came shouting my son's name, Aquila, Matiba, come out, come out. And one of them defended him and said, No, not Aquila. Aquila does not do these things. He will never protest. I saw Jehovah's hand in this. Even under those circumstances, Jehovah helped our children not to dwell on the madness in the streets, and we focused on spiritual things.
In 1968, when I was 19 years old, I was sentenced to jail for refusing to do military service. Over a period of 20 years, close to 1,000 young white witness men similarly took their stand for neutrality in this country.
We used to pray for our white brothers in prison. People in the black townships respected us for the stand these brothers were taking.
In 1974, over 30,000 black and white brothers met for the afternoon session of the Divine Victory Assembly. When we first arrived, there were policemen everywhere. But after half an hour, they saw how peaceful it was, and so they left. For those few hours in the dark era of apartheid, we felt that glorious brotherly love as we praised Jehovah together.
Umfowethu uMoses Nyamuzwa wacelwa elinye iqembu lezo.
Brother Moses Nyamuzwa was asked by a group on their way to a political rally to weld weapons for them. He refused to do so. After their rally, they went back to him and said, "You refused to weld our weapons, and some of our comrades were killed in a fight at the rally. Now you will die." Brother Nyamuzwa maintained his neutrality all the way to death, and Jehovah will remember him.
In 1993, I was amazed when a white person came preaching house to house. They came with another white man who could speak Venda fluently. That excited me a lot. And as time went by, I came to realize that this is the true religion because they were faithful friends and they spoke to me like we were family.
In the late 1980s, the government granted us permission to come in and build kingdom halls in the black townships. The local community were absolutely amazed to see all these whites pouring in and working hard along with their black brothers to build these beautiful kingdom halls.
It was a wonderful privilege to get to know other young people of different races.
Everyone in the congregation feels like family as long as they serve Jehovah.
See yourself.
Just see me too.
Just see us all in a world that is new.
Today in South Africa, there are more than 100,000 witnesses worshiping together in spirit and truth. South Africa has 11 official languages, yet across that cultural variety, our brothers and sisters are all speaking the pure language, the truth about Jehovah God and His purposes. When we build strong faith in times of peace, we can find courage during times of testing and persecution. Brother Rocky Webb from the United States learned to be a fighter as a young man, but as his faith grew, he learned that Jehovah is there to help us and to fight our battles.
All of us is going to be tested one way or the other before we make it into the new world. And if we can endure those tests faithfully, then you'll make it. My dad and my mother taught me the truth. What drove me to be baptized was the convention in Washington, D.C. Brother Rutherford gave the talk on the meek shall inherit the earth. And it touched my heart in a way that it's never left from that minute on, right on up to now. Gave me faith to stay with Jehovah all the way. The bullies would come and jump onto me, and I would come home pretty well beat up. And so that's when I started training for boxing. I was offered $40,000 for a fight, win or lose. And if I won the second fight, they would double the amount. Brother McMillan was like a second dad to me and my brother. And he asked me, says, would you do me a favor? He says, don't put the gloves on no more. And so I didn't put them on anymore. I think he knew that it wouldn't be very long for an article on it. It came out and told that boxing wasn't for the Christians. I was drafted during this time, and I refused to serve and was sent to prison. All the time, I never, ever slowed down on my theocratic deals. Never. I kept right on it. The jail warden overheard me witnessing to another inmate. He told me, don't do any more of that, says we don't allow it here. 3 days would pass by, and he seen me talking to him again. And they put me in a car that was shaded. You couldn't see out. I didn't know where I was going. It was an old prison, just dark as it could be in there. It was 3 feet around, and they called it the sweat box. All the time I was in there, just sweat. And I went in weighing 213 pounds, and I came out weighing 133 pounds. Psalms 144 says, May Jehovah my rock be praised, who trains my hand for battle, my fingers for warfare. I gave my life to give Jehovah my faith. I lived in Wewoka. Several congregations would come together to work. We were confronted by mobs. There was a lot of them that was injured. I had 80 stitches to turn up here, and I had 13 in the side there on each tab. I was really, really beat up. But I couldn't have stood up if it hadn't been for Jehovah. I knew he was with me somewhere or another. So we sued the town and won $20,000. The society called us and said, you did very good in what all you've done, but says, remember, we're not out for money. Make sure that's made known to them. When we walked up to the desk, they slid the papers out to us. It says, sign them up. And we just took and slid them back. It came out in the papers. Tell them to come back and do all they want to do in the way of their witnessing. It says we won't touch them. They were really highly respect us for what we did. And so that opened it up. And they've had a real good congregation there, got started and everything. My first wife was a blessing for me. But when she died, Jehovah stepped in and gave me another good one. We both the loans together. No, we do most everything together. We studied till we could feel it in our hearts. When you give your faith to Jehovah, you're giving your life to him. He's permitted these things to come upon me. I knew that, but he protected me.
Brother Webb is now 94 years old, but as we saw, he and his wife Charlene keep themselves spiritually active. What lessons did you see in Rocky's experience? For one, we heard that Rocky learned to be a boxer to protect himself from bullies. Yet he responded in faith to loving counsel to quit, even before God's people had a clear understanding of violent sports. Making that change helped Rocky to continue cultivating a Christ-like personality. That prepared him to stand firm when imprisoned for his faith. And it helped him to not return evil for evil when persecuted for his ministry. He had faith that although Jehovah permitted these things to happen, he was also there to protect him. Examples like those of Rocky and the others we've considered warm our hearts and let us know we're never alone in our fight for the faith. Like you, our brothers around the world are standing firm and earnestly seeking out people to show them what the Bible teaches. Later this month, you'll enjoy hearing a report from the Central America branch. Preaching campaigns organized by the branch are reaching people in seldom worked territories across several countries, such as Mexico, El Salvador, Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. Later, when it is posted, you'll find it in the Video on Demand section under Our Meetings and Ministry. We'd like to conclude our program with a visit to the Catania Fleming English congregation on the beautiful island of Sicily. The small congregation has 46 publishers and 16 pioneers, but they're conducting on average more than 60 Bible studies. Critical times in this system of things are also giving them special opportunities in the ministry. Their territory includes one of the largest refugee camps in Europe. It provides shelter to people coming from countries such as Nigeria, Gambia, Ghana, Eritrea, and Somalia. Each week, a group of publishers drives an hour to the camp to give a witness and conduct studies. Residents from the camp also come by bus to attend the weekend meeting. The brothers and sisters of the Catania Fleming English congregation send you their loving greetings. We thank Jehovah for their willing spirit to bring comfort to others with the good news. Thank you for being with us this month. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.